whether the team is performing clean or unsightly. We'll cover it all here on Washington Football Nightly. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. So, the second half of the season officially begins in week number 9 versus the Giants. And it's a huge game. I've stated this numerous times. I can't state it enough. The Giants have already beaten us this season. I've already laid out the path to winning the division. In order to win this division, the team that wins this division ultimately will go no worse than 4-2 in this division. Anything less, to me, will be uncivilized. And I just don't see how the team that ultimately calls themselves NFC East champions is going to be able to win this division with a mark of less than 4-2. I just don't see how it happens. It's possible with the way the division is going, but I just see the team that calls themselves NFC East champions to either be 5-1 in the division or 4-2. That's where the bulk of their wins are going to come from. This awful division. Washington has already lost an inexplicable game to the Giants, one that I thought they thoroughly dominated, especially in the second half after starting slow, which was an MO of this team in the first half of the season. I'm hoping for better fortunes. And remember, we talked about this. Ron Rivera's teams have shown this over the years. We said that this team would get better as the season progressed. They would get better offensively. They would get better defensively. And as a cohesive unit, they would just be overall better. We're hoping to see that. And we're hoping that it started in week 7 versus Dallas. But we're really hoping to turn the corner and start mashing our foot on the gas pedal in this game here, because it's one thing to do it for 1 week, which we did in week 7, which we did in week 1. It's another thing to do it 2 weeks in a row, which we haven't done. And really, I should say 2 games in a row, because we didn't play last week. Doesn't matter. You want to start stringing these really good performances together. You want to start building on top of what you did the game previous. So we played well. We dominated thoroughly. We weren't in a position where we were biting our nails late in the ball game. We went out. We executed. We took it to the Cowboys. And for the first time this season, we actually led at the halftime break, which is something that is very foreign to us. I want to see them build upon that. Start fast. Actually, don't go 3 and out offensively on your first drive. Put some points. We still didn't score on that first possession, if you recall, versus Dallas. Now, we moved it the length of the field, got as close as the half-inch yard line, and still didn't find a way in. I want to see us start fast. We didn't start fast against the Giants the last time. And so this is a massive game, and we'll get into strategy. We'll take our first look at the Giants today. We'll talk about this matchup and what it really entails, because again, this is a massive football game. But I kind of want to go bigger picture. We'll focus and we'll narrow our focus to the Giants. I want to go big picture for a second. I don't really like doing this because, again, we're not a good enough organization. We're not a good enough team to look big picture. When you're a good team, when you're the Chiefs, when you're the Seahawks, when you're the Steelers, you can start looking big picture. Ravens, Packers. You can start talking about, well, man, in 3 weeks we got this team, or in 2 weeks this is a big game on prime time. We can't do that. We're not capable of doing that. Someone wrote me a message on one of the videos in the comment section, and they said, you know what I really want to see from this team? I want to see a team that handles success well. We never did in the Gruden era. That is facts. Every time we would be patting ourselves on the back. I'm not patting this team on their back at all. No one is patting this team on the back. That's a slight difference. But even within the walls of Washington Park, the Inova Center, whatever they call that now. It used to be called Redskins Park. Whatever they used to do in those walls, it never really was something that was positive for this team, because guys would come out flat after a win. And we wouldn't be able to build on the success of what we had done the week previous. There's been a lot of, guys feeling confident, which is what you want. I've talked about winning begets confidence. Confidence begets winning. It's a beautiful cycle, one that we haven't seen enough here. You want guys confident. You don't want them cocky to the point where they think they're just going to show up and the Giants are going to lay down and they're going to win. They've got to go out and they've got to take the win like they did against the Dallas Cowboys in week 7. But I want to go big picture. I brought up a conversation and a topic that I think it's still early to even really be having this discussion. But it's something that I've brought up before. I'm not going to spend a lot of time because I have talked about this on at least 2 or 3 occasions, several occasions. And that's Kyle Allen. I think it's worth noting, however, that he's playing well. I told you I liked him in the week 6 ass thrashing, or 5, versus the Rams. I said, hey, I actually thought he played well for the first half, even though it didn't amount to much. We did have 1 scoring possession before he got injured. I said I liked what I saw. The following week in week 6 versus the Giants, he played well, but he had the 2 back-breaking, soul-crushing turnovers that ultimately cost us that football game. There were other decisions and other things that happened throughout the course of the game that also contributed to the loss, whether you're talking Dustin Hopkins missing a field goal, whether you're talking about Rivera going for 2. I don't have a problem with Rivera going 2. I told you I wanted him to go for 2. You got to execute. That wasn't a good play that was called. That play almost seemed like you were setting the team up for failure, even down to the fact that J.D. McKissic wasn't in on a route that he runs better than Antonio Gibson. But that's no here nor there. We've already talked about that. He didn't play well enough to win in that game. He followed that up with a gem of a performance. I thought he left some things out on the field. I thought he did play well, but he can play better. But that's what happens when you get more reps. You know, really what we're talking about is a guy that's only played in 2 games this season. 2.5 if you want to count the half of football he played against the Rams. He's going to continue to progress as he gets more and more comfortable with the targets around him. And as we start to add more talent around him, we're getting a lot of guys back healthy. You know, Steven Sims has not been activated off of IR, but he fully practiced today. That is a great sign because, as we know with Rivera, got to see how the guy feels the next day. Well, the next day is here, and Steven Sims went from a limited participant to a full participant in practice. Now, we'll see how that goes on Friday, and if he's a full participant then, the thought process, the prevailing thought is he'll be activated on Saturday. We'll see what happens. At the end of the day, I think there's a discussion to be had. If Kyle Allen plays well here and we start to see this offense take off, which I think is a realistic possibility. We're starting to get quality snaps out of the running back position. We're seeing the receivers start to come together. We've gotten more out of the tight end position than we bargained for coming into the season out of Logan Thomas. I think this offensive line is starting to mesh and gel together. We're getting healthy along the front. There's some things that you should feel really good about. And one of those things ultimately might, I'm not saying it is, might be the quarterback position in Kyle Allen. We'll see. I said this to someone in the comment section because they said, you guys are tripping if you think that Kyle Allen is the answer. No one's saying he's the answer. No one has said definitively Kyle Allen's the guy. But what if he is? For me right now, he's not. But what if he is? We don't know. He's got 9 games. I've said this a number of times. He's got 9 games to prove that he is or he isn't. Let's see what he's got. Who thought when the Titans traded for Ryan Tannehill to be a backup, which is what we did with Kyle Allen, who thought that Tannehill would ultimately seize control of that organization and do what he's done and become the guy in Tennessee? Did you? I didn't. You just don't know when you do these things. But it's a similar situation. Tannehill had 1 year left on his deal. They traded for him. He was a backup. He didn't play the first 5 or 6 weeks. He comes in. He takes over. He plays well. He leads the team to the playoffs. They win a couple of playoff games, gets to the AFC Championship game. They give him a monster contract in the offseason. He's their guy. They got off to a 5-0 start before losing their last 2 games. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen here with Kyle Allen. Don't misconstrue what I'm saying, but there's the blueprint right there. All I'm saying is you trade for a guy, you're not expecting much. He's the backup. He comes in. He does everything you ask. The other guy that's starting doesn't perform well enough. You move on from him. You insert the backup. He comes in. He takes control of the position. Guys rally around him. He plays exceptional football. He takes you to the playoffs. That could happen here. A lot of time left, but that could happen here. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. I also want to look at the schedule quickly because I feel like I talked about the second half of the season starting now. This is it. If we're serious about making a season out of 2020, it starts with this game. Now, it started in week 7 because without week 7, there is no week 9, meaning anything. So it started with week 7, but now that you're coming off the bye, now that you're getting a little bit healthier, and we're hoping that this is something that stays for the remainder of the season, that we stay relatively healthy moving forward. Now you got to start looking at the schedule, and now you start playing the schedule game. I don't want Ron Rivera doing that. Let us do that. I don't like talking about games into the future, but this is what I'm talking about. Matthew Stafford's on the COVID list. Now, he doesn't have COVID-19. Okay, that was one of the misconceptions. I fell into that trap, went back because I got excited. I'm not going to lie to you. I'll take any advantage I can get at this point. I told you, I never want to see anybody hurt. But if you happen to get hurt before our game, hey, I'll take it. Just like Kenny Golladay got hurt last week, hurt his hip. He's now on IR. He will not play against us. I'm not mad at that. I'll take it. That's their best receiver. And if you tell me there's a chance Matthew Stafford won't play, hell, sign me up. He's going to play. Now, I don't know what's going to happen. Minnesota has, in the past, destroyed Matthew Stafford. Looks like he was close to someone. He came in contact, or at least close contact, with someone who has COVID-19. So that put the team on high alert. And they said, hey, we're going to put you on the COVID list. You have to test negative a couple of times, and then we'll bring you back into the facility. More likely than not, if he hasn't contracted COVID-19, he'll test negative a couple of times, and he'll suit up for the Lions this weekend versus the Minnesota Vikings. But that's no here nor there. That's a winnable football game whether Stafford plays or not. And if this defense steps up, and it has to start in this game. You know, we did a little something in week 7, but there were opportunities for the Cowboys to take advantage that Stafford will take advantage of if we don't clean up. We got to go out and dominate, and then that confidence will start to bleed over into the next week, and then into the next week, and then into the next week. And next thing you know, that number 1 overall pass defense actually looks like a number 1 overall pass defense instead of it really just being a house of cards right now. But I can tell you this much. That's a winnable game. We come back home the following week. Joe Burrow and company are scoring points. Okay? They are scoring points. And if we can't keep pace or at least slow them down, that's going to be a tough task in itself. But that should be fun. They're not a good team yet. They're still trying to figure out how to win, just like we are. We're a young team. They're a young team. That's going to be a fun one in a couple of weeks at FedEx Field. And then you got a short week, quick turnaround. You got Dallas. That's a stretch there that if you take care of business, and all I'm looking for is 3 out of 4. Primarily the bookend games. I need Giants. I need Dallas. Get one of the two in between, and preferably the one in the NFC conference, which is the one against Detroit, and I feel really good. If you beat Giants and Detroit, I want the third game in a row against Cincinnati at home. But I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but that's just looking big picture, because if you don't take care of business in this stretch, things get really dicey after that. You're talking Seattle, San Francisco, Pittsburgh, and I'm not talking about in any particular order. If I'm not mistaken, after Dallas, it's Pittsburgh. After Pittsburgh, I believe it's Seattle. Then it's like San Francisco and Carolina. Seattle's in there somewhere. Like it gets really tough is essentially what I'm saying to you. Really, really dicey down the stretch. You put yourself in a really good position if you take care of the opportunities that are in front of you here. This is the stretch of the season where you have a chance to put a couple of wins in the bank. You have to take advantage of it. If you do not take advantage of some of these opportunities, then you're not going to win this division. And Philadelphia's schedule is brutal. It's absolutely brutal. So if you take care of business here during this stretch, they're going to lose some games, are the Philadelphia Eagles. All I want to do is put ourselves in a position. I'd like to have the division sewn up before week 17, and it's possible if we take care of business, because we're in a position that we may be able to sneak a team or two after this stretch if we start playing better football, which is why these games are so important. But I just want to get to a point where week 17, at worst, at minimum, is for the division. Give me a shot, because I think we're capable of sweeping Philadelphia this year. I just want to get to a point where week 17 is a win and you're in situation. If we played our best brand of football, and I know I sound crazy, and there are still people out there banging the drum that this isn't any more than a 3-4 win team. I've always said this season, and you can go back and check the record and let it reflect. When everyone was jumping ship and bailing, talking about tanking for this guy and doing this and doing that, I said, I'm watching the film. I see a team that's getting better. We're close. I kept saying it. And I'm not Bruce Allen, but I said, we're close. We're getting close. I feel like we're trying to turn the corner and we just don't know how. I feel like we've gotten to a point now, and Rivera said it in his presser today, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But now we're past the point of we're learning and this and that. Now you got to start showing on the field. You got to start proving. Show and prove. Now we're past and I said this when we were talking about the Giants, we're past the moral victories. Oh man, we played competitive with this team. We're done. We're past that. Nobody wants to hear that. Now it's about wins and losses. Can you get enough in the left-hand column that qualifies you for the postseason? That's all I'm looking for at this point. And this game against the Giants is massive. You can't beat the Giants. I've said this already, and I mean this sincerely from the bottom of my heart. You can't beat the Giants. They've already beaten us once. You get swept by the Giants, you don't need to go anywhere but home. You stay your ass at the crib, okay? You don't need to go anywhere playing anybody in anybody's postseason if you can't beat the Giants. And that's no disrespect to the Giants. That's more on us. You shouldn't have lost to them the first time. You need to beat them at least once. They're in no position to be sweeping any goddamn body in this division. So if we can't beat them one time, then we need to take our asses home. Simple as that. Let's move on and go to in other news. And we've got a lot to discuss. I thought there were some really, really interesting conversations had by the coaches today that stepped up to the podium. Both Jack Del Rio, the defensive coordinator, I thought he was awesome today, and head coach Ron Rivera both stepped up to the podium and both had interesting things to say. So we'll get to their comments here in a second. But as we often do here on the program on a Thursday heading into a game, let's take a look at the injury report and see what both teams are up to. So when you look at Washington, this is a clean list, man. This looks really, really good. This is what you want coming off of a bye week. Washington has 6 players on their injury report, but all but 2 of them practiced. And not only did they practice, they were full participants. So we're trending in the direction of just about everybody who's anybody is going to play this week, which is good news. All right, so Wednesday, I talked about 5 guys being limited, all of them being limited participants. Jaron Christian was a guy coming off of a knee injury. He was limited yesterday. Him not practicing today tells us all we need to know. More likely than not, it's going to be Cornelius Lucas for the second straight game at left tackle because Christian wasn't able to follow up a limited day with another day of practice. So that means there was probably some swelling, some discomfort, and they decided to sit him out of practice today. So more likely than not, it'll be another week with Cornelius Lucas. Never, ever trust a man with 2 first names starting at the left tackle position. James Smith-Williams suffered a concussion back in, I want to say it was week 6 versus the Giants the first time around. He's now out of the concussion protocol in stage 5, which means he's a full participant in practice today. Good news for him. Same can be said for Montez Sweat, who I was oblivious to the fact that this guy was even in the concussion protocol. A lot of you filled me in and said, hey, there was a sack opportunity late in the game where he and a teammate collided. And they went to commercial break, came back and said that he was in the concussion protocol. I don't know where the hell I went. Maybe I went to the bathroom. I don't know how I missed this, but I did. And so I thank you guys for kind of clearing up some of that and filling in some of the blank spots for me there. But he's a full participant today, which means he's in stage 5 of that concussion protocol, which is great news because he's playing at an exceptionally high level opposite of Chase Young. Logan Thomas had an ankle injury that he was dealing with. He was a limited participant yesterday, full participant today. I don't worry about Logan Thomas. He's been on the injury report numerous times this year, but always manages to play and play effectively. So look forward to him being on the field. Isaiah Wright was a limited participant yesterday with the shoulder injury that he sustained against this same Giants team in week 6. He's ready to go, full participant in practice today. And also a guy not listed here, Steven Sims Jr., full participant today after being a limited participant yesterday. He's not listed here because he hasn't been activated from IR yet, which I've already explained to you. However, the fact that he continues to progress kind of points towards him being activated at some point this week. More likely than not, they'll keep him off of the injury report until either Friday or Saturday, because they don't have to answer questions regarding Steven Sims if he's not on the injury report. So what teams I've seen this season have done is they've activated a guy on Saturday where you don't have to answer questions, and boom, he's on the roster and able to go on Sunday. So he's practicing. And I saw a video, and you probably saw the same video. I think it was John Kime on Twitter who uploaded a video of Sims catching the football, turning up the field, running through contact, and bursting out there with speed. And so he looks good. He looks back to the form that he was in when this season started in week 1 versus Philadelphia. That's great news. And then you have Dontrell Inman, who I think might have suffered a hamstring injury in practice yesterday because he was not on the injury report yesterday. He shows up today, did not practice. That's not good. But if there's one position we can afford an injury to, and I'm not saying we're looking for this, but it would be wide receiver. And so it looks more and more. If Inman can't go, the likelihood is that we'll see Robert Foster in some capacity on Sunday in his first action as a member of the Washington football team. So Inman is one to watch because he's been really big for us in some crucial situations, 3rd down, 4th down conversions. Inman has come up huge. And so I told you that even though Inman was healthy last game against Dallas, Cam Sims took a lot of his reps. So I think they feel really confident that if Inman can't go, Sims can step into that role. Talking about Cam Sims now, not Steven Sims. Cam Sims can step into that role and flourish. So we'll see what happens there. You go to the Giants. Devontae Freeman, Ryan Lewis, Golden Tate, all were non-participants yesterday in practice. Freeman with an ankle, who did not play last week. Ryan Lewis with a hamstring. And Golden Tate, I told you yesterday on the show last night, was a non-injury related miss from practice. He's going to play. He was a full participant today. And so Golden Tate, you might as well go ahead. Again, guys that are non-injury related, I usually don't even consider them guys that are even in range of missing the game. So Golden Tate is not a guy you should concern yourself with on this list. Who you should concern yourself with are all the other guys because they are all limited participants. Ryan Lewis with the hamstring, back-to-back days not practicing. More likely than not, he's not going to be able to play in week number 9 versus Washington. Freeman, I would assume, will play. He did not play last week. Ankles are very tricky, just like hamstrings. We'll see. They went with Wayne Gallman, who had a solid game against the Eagles when Freeman got hurt, and he had a solid game again last week versus the Buccaneers. So even if Freeman can't go, they feel good about Wayne Gallman. But Freeman kind of ate us up last game. He did some really good things, especially early in the first half of that ball game. It would be nice if he just doesn't play. I would prefer it if he weren't able to go. We'll see. You get to Devontae Downs, the linebacker with a shoulder injury, limited on Wednesday and Thursday. He's solid, but he's not a guy that you really worry about. But he is a guy that they do like to play on 3rd down situations. So that's a guy to keep an eye on. Blake Martinez is the heart and soul of that defense in terms of getting tackles and getting guys lined up. Right now, he's dealing with a hamstring. He was limited yesterday. He's limited today. That's a name to watch because he was big for them in the win versus us the first time around. If he can't go, that's a huge blow to their defense. Logan Ryan with the hip, he was massive last game. He was everywhere. I talked about it in the film breakdown. They blitzed him. He made big plays. If you remember the Terry play by the sidelines where, Terry had a touchdown potentially if Allen could have gotten him the football. He just didn't have enough arm strength to get it there with the way he was positioned on that play. Logan Ryan was everywhere. Let me just state that. He made tackles. He made breakups. He was everywhere in that football game. If he can't play, that's a huge blow to their defense. And Sterling Shepard, we didn't see him the last time. We were the last game that he missed before coming back versus the Eagles on a Thursday night. It'd be great if he can't play because he's always had success against us. But my thought process and the odds-on favorite is that he plays. Shoulder, toe injury, these are the same injuries he's been dealing with. He was limited yesterday. He's limited today. I expect Sterling Shepard to give it a go on Sunday And the Giants, more likely than not, will be at full strength receiver-wise, which they haven't been since, they've really gotten Daniel Jones. They really haven't been fully healthy. They still don't have Saquon Barkley, which they haven't had all of their receivers and Barkley in the lineup all at the same time, I think, but once. So I think Sterling Shepard will be back. That's one to watch as well. But as we get back into in other news, I want to start with Ron Rivera and what he had to say. Look, Ron talked about, this game and the impact of this game, the meaning of this game. But I thought the bigger picture from Ron here was that this is a team that's growing. And we're now, and he talked about, one of the reporters brought up Morgan Moses saying that this team is coming together and they feel really good about where they are. And Rivera agreed with that and said, yeah, we're at a point now where, we've started to change the culture. Guys are buying in. There's still some guys that, have some things to work on and have to continue to buy in. But for the most part, you're getting everyone to buy in. Now we're no longer at the point where we're just happy to be here. We're happy to show up, compete, and just okay, we're a young team and we're using that as an excuse. He says now we're at the point where we've got to start turning this hard work in practice and all of the ideologies. And he had a shirt on that said, something along the lines of, I forgot what it said. I'm not going to even act like I remember what it said. But, it was a mantra that he said he was talking to J.D. McKissick about. And, Rivera's all about his T-shirts. That was one of the themes in Carolina. He would wear shirts that had a meaning to him. And so this shirt essentially said, I am a member of the team, and you got to do your part. And when you do your part, it represents the team, and the team individually is represented by you. So essentially, you do your part and take care of what you have to take care of, which is the whole Patriots mantra of do your job. You do what you have to do, and it will show up. If every single guy on the team does what he has to do individually, collectively, it'll come together and it'll get the job done. And vice versa. And conversely, if the team comes together, it will be because you did your job individually. So he talked about that. He talked about how, this team's coming together, but now we're past the point of moral victories, just showing up to compete. Now it's about how can we win games? How can we get all of the hard work, all of the transformation that has taken place? How can we get that to show up in a way that nets us a victory and a tally in the left-hand column on Sundays? How can we find a way to do that on Sundays and Thursdays, the remainder of the season? And so I thought that was massive because no one wants to talk about, man, we're young and we're trying to figure that's done. That was what you did the first half of the season. All right. Now we want to talk about how can we find a way to win? And I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's Seattle. I don't care if it's Pittsburgh. How can we find a way to win? Nobody cares anymore about, this team's much better than us and we're young and they're a veteran team. That's what the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season were about. Getting the whole COVID-19. We played no preseason games. We're young. We got to get used to Rivera, this, that. We got to get used to Del Rio. All of that is done now. Find ways to win is essentially what Ron said. And I thought Ron did a really good job of keeping his answers short and succinct. They were to the point. For instance, they asked Ron about, adjustments made, self-scouting over the bye week, which is what teams do on the bye week. You look at the things you've done well, you try to improve upon those. You look at the things you didn't do well, and you try to minimize that. You try to find ways to either circumvent that or get better at that. And he said, well, I'm not going to tell you about that. That's something that I feel like we need to keep in-house. We're not looking to give out any advantages to our opponents. Good, because before the bye, Ron would have gave you everything you wanted. Well, I feel like we need to be better on third downs. We need to do this. No. You don't need to know all of that. This is what I'm going to give you. Nothing. And you're going to like it. And I like that. I thought Ron was very thoughtful in his answers. I thought Ron did a lot of things, said a lot of things that I can relate to. That I think resonates with the team. And again, I've said this a long time ago. I don't give a shit what he tells the media, personally. I don't care. Everyone's getting wrapped up. He's sending mixed signals and mixed messages, and I don't care about that. As long as the team is receiving the message. Now, if they're confused, then we have a problem. They don't seem confused to me. They seem to understand exactly what Ron is trying to convey to them. As long as that's what's going on, I could care less. What he tells us, the media, if it's confusing or not, whether you get it or you don't get it, I don't care. I don't care. I told you I'm still riding with Ron as long as these players are riding with Ron, and it seems like everyone is on board, and that's all I care about. You get to Jack Del Rio. I thought Jack was awesome today because Jack gave you a little bit of, hey, I'm not getting into that, and Jack gave you a little bit of his humor, which we've seen he has a personality, and then Jack gave you a little bit of the nitty-gritty details, and so I thought it was a well-balanced presser from Jack. He's vastly, very quickly becoming my favorite coach to hear speak. I like listening to Scott Turner because he seems to be pretty direct. You know, he'll acknowledge when there's a weakness or something that he needs to clean up or the team needs to clean up. But I like listening to Scott Turner to see if he sees the same things that I see. But Del Rio, to me, is the guy that I get the most joy out of listening to. And he seems to, and because he's a veteran and he's been a coach in this league, he knows how to handle the media. You could tell. Anyway, the first thing that jumped out to me with Del Rio was he talked about some of the things that they have done defensively to this point of the season, how they've grown. You know, one of the questions that was asked was, and Rivera was asked the same question about Del Rio, and Rivera said that, hey, look, me and Del Rio are cut from the same cloth. We played in the NFL during the same era. We've been in the NFL right around the same amount of time. We are, you know, both of them came from that Southern Cal area. One went to Stanford. The other went to USC. So, you know, they're kind of two peas in a pod. He's like, we're both, he said we're both old, like, he didn't say curmudgeons, but he said something like old crusts or something like that. Like, essentially what he's saying is we're both old school. You know, we both see it the same way. So, you know, he gets on his players a lot. He's hard on those guys. You know, so am I, that kind of thing. And they asked Del Rio the same question, you know, what is it about you that you're able to go in and transform a defense in year one, which he's already done with this defense, as you can see. You know, we're in the top half of the league overall. I think we might even be top 10 right now overall, but we're number one, you know, pass defense wise. Again, that's to me fool's gold, but it doesn't have to be. Okay, you know, you cut out the big plays, and I think this team has a chance, but you gotta limit the mistakes. But he just talked about, hey, look, this is kind of my philosophy. This is what I want to do. And guys are buying in, and there's a lot of talent here, and now they just got to go out and execute on the football field. He talked about Cam Curl, his role on the football team, and how they decided not to go outside of the organization for help, but rather, you know, promote Jeremy Reeves and give Cameron Curl the spot at strong safety. What have you seen from him to make you so confident that he can do it? And he essentially said, look, this guy's really smart. He's played really well for us. We've put him in some tough situations. He's performed well and really outperformed what we thought he was going to give us. And so we think he deserves a shot. I agree. He also said that, you know, when you look at this team, and he specifically talked about Chase Young here, he said Chase Young dropped, you know, 6 or 7 times in the coverage because they talked about, you know, Daniel Jones and some of the mistakes that he's prone to making. And Del Rio said, look, I can't talk for other teams. This was turnover Thursday. He always talks about this damn turnover Thursday, but we don't create any goddamn turnovers. I always get a kick out of that. But he said, look, he said, this was the best one yet. Okay, we'll see. We'll see if this was the best one yet or not on Sunday. But he said, you know, Daniel Jones is talented. We know he can make all the throws. He hurt us with his legs last time. We can't allow that to happen. He said, you know, it's amazing because when we looked at the game, and I pointed this out on film, I said, this has got to stop. He said, look, we can't be dropping Chase Young 6 or 7 times in the coverage. He said, it just so happened that when we were blitzing, the guy at that particular spot, and it just happened to be Chase Young every time, he was dropping in the coverage. It was called for him to drop in the coverage, and we didn't realize it in the moment until after the game when we went and watched the film. And we was like, shit, Chase is dropping again. And there he is dropping again. And there he is dropping again. And you look up, and he's done it 6 or 7 times. And I'm like, I remember on film saying, look, this has got to stop. Chase can't be dropping in the coverage 5 or 6 times in the course of a game. It's okay to drop him 2 or 3 times, you know, but 5 or 6 is a little bit, it's a little bit ridiculous. All right, he's too good of a rusher to be dropping into coverage. You can do that with someone else, not Chase Young. So it's a bit outlandish. You know, it's over the top. And Jack even admitted himself. He said, look, that's not going to be the move moving forward. Like, we can't have one of our better pass rushers, you know, dropping into coverage. That's not how this defense is set up. But, you know, in those particular moments, it called for that particular position, and Chase just happened to be there. But we've got to do a better job of making sure he's not always the guy that has to drop into coverage. That being said, he said, look, Chase is he's playing exceptional ball. And the sacks are going to come in. And Del Rio has said this before, and I feel the same exact way. The sacks will come. I'm not worried about it. Chase is playing at a very high level. If you've watched the film, which most of you have, if you haven't and you're not on Patreon, what are you waiting on? The film study tells the story. A lot of you ask me questions that if you're watching the film, you don't even have to ask. I explain these things very thoroughly. You get to see it with your own 2 eyes. So even if you disagree with something that I'm explaining, you can see it and you can draw your own conclusions. This is why if you're not on Patreon, you need to be on Patreon so that you can see what's going on and have a better understanding of what these players are being asked to do, who's executing, who's not, and who are the problems and who are the guys that are part of the solution. So you need to watch on Patreon if you're not, and the link is down in the description if you are interested in watching film. And we've broken down each side of the ball, each half of football for this team all season long. They're all in the archives on Patreon if you want to go back and watch, or if you want to be current the rest of this season, because I think this is going to be a big stretch of football. If you want to be locked in, Patreon's the way to do that. But he said, look, the sacks are going to come with Chase, and we feel really good about where he is right now in his development. And I feel the exact same way. Jack also talked about the maturation of this defense as a whole, and he really likes the direction that they're going in. He says, we got some things to clean up, and he's right, and I show you this on film. You know, there was a big blunder that, you know, a guy that they seem to have really soured on in Sean Deion Hamilton bailed them out in the Dallas game. He really did. So, you know, there's still blunders being made, and he said, look, me being a linebacker in my career, and they asked him about the 89 team he was on for Dallas, and they were 1-15, and so he talked about, you know, when you're going through a tough season like that, what's the mindset? And he said, look, first things first, we're all professionals, so you got a job to do, you know. And he said that year, you know, he said the second half of the season, and this is what you got to think about. He said the second half of that year, defensively, we were like one of the best defenses in the league. We were coming. We just didn't have that complementary football. We didn't have the offense, you know, making plays and doing the things. But we defensively, we were getting our shit together. He said, if I'm not mistaken, the one win we had that season was against the Redskins. He was right. It was against the Redskins. And he said, we were playing good. He said the core nucleus of those championship teams when they won 3 out of 4 were a lot of those guys in 89. Remember, that was Jimmy Johnson's first year. And you're not looking for a Dallas Cowboy history lesson here. So I'm not looking to give you that. But he said essentially that he sees a lot of what they were able to do there, here. Like, guys are getting it. And this second half could be a big run for this defense if guys buy in and do what they're supposed to do. But he took it a step forward and he said, look, defense is complementary just like the overall team is complementary. In order to really win, you need the offense to play well. You need the defense to get stops, get the football back to your offense. And you need the offense to score when they get those opportunities, and you need special teams to do what they have to do, and that's how you win ball games. Well, defense is no different. He's like, if you're getting pressure, but the back end is stinking it up, well, they're going to get completions anyway. Vice versa, if the back end is holding up, but the pressure isn't coming, there's only so long the secondary can hold up for before guys get open. And he said the glue is the linebacker position. They hold it together because they're an extension of the front end and the back end, which is why we've been giving up big plays, because the linebackers haven't been doing the best of jobs of connecting the two. So I think we're going to get better at that with Cole Holcomb now in the lineup, and we saw a little bit of that in week number 7, but, you know, we're going to need more of that moving forward. But I thought this was also interesting because Del Rio hasn't really done this all season. He said, look, last time we played the Giants, we didn't do a good enough job getting off the field on third downs. Facts. It was. He said, usually, you know what? I think it was our worst game defensively, third downs wise this season. Once again, Jack, facts, okay? It was our worst game. The problem in that game wasn't the overall defensive performance. The Giants only scored 13 points in that game offensively. The Giants only scored, if you really want to peel it back, 6 points offensively in that game. 2 field goals. Because the defense really accounted, or the offense, really accounted for 14 of the Giants' points in the game. A pick that turned into a touchdown and a fumble, scoop, and score that directly turned into points. So the defense overall on the afternoon didn't play poorly. They just were bad on third downs. The Giants possessed the football for essentially an entire quarter. In the third quarter, they had the football on what was a marathon drive that ended in a Kendall Fuller interception. We didn't get off the field on third downs. That was a big problem. Daniel Jones hurt us with his legs. That was a big problem. He said, we can't have Daniel Jones running for big gains against us. That can't happen. And we can't be as bad as we were on third downs. That's a big acknowledgement from Jack, because generally you don't get that out of him. And he's right. If we want to beat the Giants this time around, got to get off the field on third downs. And as he said, get the football back to your offense as many times as possible. We didn't have the ball but 8 times in that Giants game. That's it. A normal game in the NFL, at minimum, you're looking at 11 possessions. We had the ball 8 times. That's because we couldn't get stopped defensively. And we only punted 1 time in that game against the Giants. Once. So we've got to get the ball back to our offense as much as possible, whether it's via turnovers or forcing a punt after getting off the field on a third down. And Jack said that, and he couldn't be more spot on. So I thought Jack was awesome today. And again, if you weren't with me yesterday on the show, if you're not on Flick, on the community, then come on. We're going to watch this Giants game. It's a massive game. You want to watch it by yourself? Fine. You can do that. You're more than entitled to do that. And you can join us afterwards on overtime. But if you really want to enjoy the game, if you really want to focus on the game, because you think in your mind, I don't want to take away from focusing on the game. So I'm not going to jump in there with y'all. Being in that community, being in that chat, in that discussion while the game is going on makes you focus even more. I've found that, which is strange because I'm a loner when it comes to watching games. You know, I don't mind watching with my dad or, you know, my girl or my you know, family members or whatever, because they see the game a lot along the lines that I do. But when it comes to watching with a bunch of other people, I'm usually like, nah, I'm good. I don't want to be distracted. I find myself being even more focused and in tune to what's going on when I'm watching with this group. It's been so much fun. And if you're not a part of the community, MOBB stand up. We in the building. What are you waiting on? Go sign up. The link is in the description of this video. You know what else is in the description? And the link is in the description of? To my merch on the Print Champs. That link is also in the description. Got hats. You guys been asking for hats. Like I said, I'm going to be rocking these and I'm going to be promoting these a lot. So you got to bear with me because I'm really happy about these hats. I'm really excited about the merch. I told you we were going to get hats. We were working on it. So these are dad hats. You know, I'm a strap guy. So got the dad hat in not only black, but I also got it in camo. I think this is pretty damn dope. All right. So you're going to see me rocking these all the time. Get you some merch, man. It's available up on the site down in the description. Not only do we have those hats, we got beanies, man. You know, we going all the way in. It's about to get cold outside, man. Put a lid on your dome, all right? Don't get a head cold. Get you a cap. Protect the dome, all right? So got that in black. Got that in gray. You know what I'm saying? So represent. Hold your man down and look dope in the process, man. You know, it ain't like these are some kind of cheesy get-ups. This shit is dope. All right, and I'm going to be rocking them up here. You might catch me. If I'm dressed in all black like the Omen, you're going to probably see me in this. You're probably going to see me in my cap. You know what I mean? I'm going to be rocking the gear. So get you some. All right? So just wanted to bring that to your attention. Link is in the description. Go ahead and cop you some, man. But before we move on, I just want to thank all of you guys for the great comments. Some of you like, man, hats are dope. They fire, I'm a cop. I really appreciate y'all. Don't talk about it, though. Be about it. Go ahead and cop, all right? So let's move on to our first look at the Giants in week number 9. This is a massive matchup, as I've already mentioned. I'm looking forward to seeing how we handle the success of week 7's 25-3 victory over Dallas. Do we come in overconfident, or do we continue the assault from week 7 into week 9 and continue to grow as a football team, continue to do the things that allow us to win games comfortably and win going away? I don't really care if it's by 1 or if it's by 21. I just want to win. But I feel like, and the Giants have been a thorn in our side, so I don't expect this. The Giants aren't terrible like the Cowboys are. So I don't expect this to be a domination. I'd like it to be. You know, if we can force some turnovers of Daniel Jones and turn those turnovers into points, why can't we run away from these guys and win 29-10? Why not? It's unlikely to happen, but why not? The Giants scored 6 points. I get it. It's a different team. They got Sterling Shepard. Evan Ingram is playing better. All of these things are true. Steve Slayton, or Darius Slayton, not hobbling around on one leg this game. I get it. He's not even on the injury report. They're a much healthier team this time around. I'm aware. Very aware. Why not? Why can't we force Daniel Jones? We didn't really force him into any mistakes. Chase Young got pressure on one play. He threw it. He was trying to throw it away and didn't get enough on it. And technically, if you want to be honest, I don't even think that was a pick. I thought that Kendall Fuller's elbow landed out of bounds, but I'll take any gifts I can get. It's a great play by Kendall Fuller. Bottom line is, I think that when you look at this game, I see a Giants offense that is struggling. They're still struggling. And I see a Giants defense that, for the most part this season, has been really good. They've been really solid. They've been the one thing that have kept the Giants from being the worst team in football. Because they would be right, if not for this defense, they would be right there with the Jets. Because the Jets have a quality defense and an anemic offense. The Giants have they're not just quality on defense. They're one of the better defensive units in football. And they've got a below average offense. They're not anemic like the Jets. But the only thing saving them from being a winless team right now is that defense. That defense stepped up against us 3 weeks ago, and that was the difference in the game. And so we've got to find a way in this game to limit the big plays. The big plays really hurt us, whether there were turnovers, Daniel Jones running for a 49-yard gain, setting up a field goal, an interception that led to a 20-something yard Darius Slayton touchdown on a 3rd and long. We've got to limit the big plays. That's what hurt us against the Giants the last time. That and the 3rd down conversions. They absolutely killed us. I think they were like 7 of 11 on 3rd downs in that game. That's preposterous. Can't happen again. When I look at this ball game, I see a team, if you're talking Washington, that's growing, that's getting healthy. They didn't see Steven Sims the first time around. I think they're going to see him this time around. They didn't see Robert Foster the first time around. Cam Sims wasn't a big part of that game the first time around, even though he had the big touchdown late. We're a different team, just like they're a different team the last time we saw them. I think that we're poised for a breakout game offensively. And what better way to make a statement than to do it against a team that's playing really good? The Tampa Bay Buccaneers were averaging 32 points a game coming into Week 8's contest versus the Giants on Monday night. They barely scored 25, okay? If not for Daniel Jones making a couple of costly mistakes, they don't get to 20 in that game. They don't sniff north of 20, okay? This Giants defense is for real. They're not a joke. They're not for play. They're for real. You want to make a statement? Go score 27 against this defense in week number 9. The Rams couldn't do it. The Bucs couldn't do it. Few have done it. Only Dallas did it, in San Francisco. I don't even think the Steelers scored 27 in that game. I think they scored like 26. I think that game ended up being like 26-10, or maybe it's 29-10 or something like that. But they struggled in that game too. Like, they're not giving up a ton of points. Go check their record. You want to make a statement offensively? Hell, you want to make a statement defensively. Create some turnovers, short fields for the offense. Help them out. We're going to get into the meat and potatoes because this is a very winnable football game. I don't have to explain that to you. They're 1-7. They're 1-7 for a reason. It's a winnable football game. By no means are they a pushover. By no means are we going to just show up and win. We haven't beaten the Giants in 4 straight contests. Daniel Jones is undefeated against us. He's 3-0. By no means is this a pushover. By no means do we just show up and, oh yeah, we're going to win. If you're thinking that way, you're sadly mistaken. But this is a very winnable football game. And we'll talk about how tomorrow on the show. So, with that being said, I'm your man, Louie T. I'm going to glide to the side. I thank you guys for joining me, as always. Really appreciate you guys chopping it up with me. I look forward to kicking it with you guys over the weekend. We'll be live tonight for Packers and 49ers. We'll be live tomorrow for the LouieTeeNetwork podcast. I will have all of my picks. Then, except for this game, which you will get tomorrow on Washington Football Nightly. So stay tuned for that on Friday evening. And we'll be back for Washington Football Overtime on Sunday after the game. I hope you chop it up with me in the community on Sunday during the game. We are all together watching this thing, and we're 500-600 strong and deep in the community watching the game together on Sunday. These are big games. I love nothing more than to watch these games with you guys live, chopping it up with you, telling you what I see, you telling me what you see, and just having fun in there, watching this game together. Hopefully, we'll have a better turnout and outcome than we did the last time we watched the game together, where we were hanging in, and then I remember like it was yesterday, me saying, "Wow," or "Oh my God," when Kyle Allen fumbled that fumble, and they scooped it up and scored in a tied 13-13 ball game. And I remember it was everybody in the comment section, everybody in the community, MOBB stand up. We in the building. I remember everybody except one person. I can't remember who that one person was. But one person was like, "You guys give up too easy, man." It was still like 3 minutes left in the game, and we had all our timeouts, and he's like, "You guys give up too easy. This game's not over." And everybody, because we're Washington fans. We're gloom and doom. Oh, here we go. Woe is me. Here we go again. We've been preconditioned to think that way. The worst is always going to happen to us. So this was no different. Oh, well, that's the game. And he's like, "No, the game's not over. You guys give up too easy." And he was right. We were all wrong. He was right. And we almost pulled it out. Should have pulled it out. But I digress. I'll see you guys later on tonight, for those of you who ultimately stay up and join me later on for Green Bay, San Francisco. For those of you who don't, I'll catch you tomorrow on the podcast, potentially, LouieTeeNetwork podcast, tomorrow afternoon. And for those of you who I won't catch tonight or tomorrow on the podcast, hopefully I'll catch you on Washington Football Nightly on Friday when I give my prediction for this game. I'm looking for yours as well on tomorrow's show, but we'll talk about that when we get there. In any event, I'm your man, Louie T. This has been Washington Football Nightly. I'll see you guys later. Take care.
Here comes the diesel. Here comes the diesel. There's the snap. Hand to Riggins. Good hole. He's got the first down to the 40. He's gone. The 35, the 30, the 20. He's gone.